Now, second question: What are my responsibilities and working in a cloud migration projects? When we are working on cloud migration projects, normally we have many cloud service providers, but majorly two: AWS and Azure.
Mm.
These are the two cloud service providers. Okay. When
Okay.
you are working on cloud migration projects, you don't require any technical knowledge of it because AWS is majorly used for infrastructure services. Azure is majorly used for platform services, majorly. Okay. Software services, you can use it for AWS or Azure also. That's a different story altogether. So, cloud service providers, these are the two cloud service providers. When you are a business analyst, when you are working on cloud migration projects, especially first thing you need to know about the data migration process. Need to have a knowledge over the data migration. For that, you need to have an understanding over the ETL process. ETL process means how you are extracting the data, how you are
Yeah.
transforming,
Transferring and loading the data.
how you are
Yes.
loading the data, right? So this data migration process is something which you need to know. Next, should able in a position to understand. Yeah. Next about migration process, this is ETL process.
Mm.
Next, you need to have a knowledge over more than responsibilities. I can require skills. Okay, it's better because responsibilities I have already mentioned over there. Better.
So, what are the skills?
Uh,
Okay.
that's better. Okay,
Okay.
because responsibilities is not the right word here.
Okay.
Right. So knowledge over different file formats. Okay, something like XML, JSON, and how to read these files. This is also required because if there is any changes you want to make on the particular file, first of all you must be knowing about uh, how to read the file is something you need to know, because as of now XML or JSON file formats we are using, there were many but major are these two. So this knowledge is also
This
required.
this XML and JSON are like
File
both in AWS
formats.
and Azure.
File formats have nothing to do with cloud migration because
Okay.
nowadays for any projects, file formats are XML and JSON we are using extensively in project development. So that file formats you must be aware of. This is point number
Okay.
two.
Okay.
Next, when it comes to the migration projects, especially when you are having migration projects, need to have some knowledge over web services. Okay, need to have some knowledge over web services, right? So web services, majorly we are using SOAP. We have three: SOAP, UDD, AWS still, but web services is something which normally we are using. Having some knowledge over web services is also becoming important. This is point number three. Point number four, having some knowledge over API. Either it can be web API or it can be SOAP API
Snowflake.
or it can be RESTful API. Okay. It can
Okay.
be of anything. Web API or SOAP API or RESTful API. Right? So having some knowledge over API. Yeah. So having some knowledge over API. What are the APIs do you have? Web API, SOAP API, RESTful API, right? So this API knowledge is also required for you if you want to become a when we are working on the cloud migration projects from the BA perspective. I am not saying implementation perspective because if you are a development side, if you are in the technical side, you must be knowing about how this can be implemented. But if you are a business analyst, for what purpose we are using RESTful API? What is the purpose behind using Web API? Why we are going for SOAP API? So that understanding you need to have, right? So for example,
Okay.
you have, let's say, let us take our cloud migration from the guideware point of view. I'll tell you, right? For example,
Okay.
guideware projects, when we are going for cloud migration from old policy center to the new policy center, what is required here? It is required, normally we are using RESTful API. Okay. We are not using Web API. Okay. Why? Because Web APIs are something used for the web related projects. SOAP API is something used for the protocol based projects. But for these kind of projects that we are working on, majority of the projects we are using RESTful API. So, what kind of API are we using and how different and why are we using these APIs is also one of the core and important skill that we want to acquire if you are working on cloud migration projects as a business analyst. As a business analyst, this is something you need to know. Next, some basic things about IWS, PWS, and SWS that anyway that knowledge anyway you are having. Okay, because some people uses infrastructure services, some people can use platform services, some people can use software.
This is
So these are the skill sets that you want to acquire when we are working on migration projects. These are the things which you must be good and familiar with. Understand? You're clear? Are you clear?
yes, yes.